This is the YouTube edition of my book, A Course in Miracles Workbook Nuggets, which is a study aid for the course's workbook for students. I'll begin by reading my book's commentary on today's lesson over a visual of the book's text. I'll then return with some further thoughts on the lesson, which are only included in this YouTube edition of my book. Today's lesson is part of a 10-lesson group that runs from lesson 241 through lesson 250, each of which relates to the world as understood in the course. I'll be repeating this same introduction for each of lessons 241 through 250, so you can skip past this introduction in the future if you like. Timestamps taking you directly to today's Workbook Nuggets commentary and my further comments are provided in the description below. In the section entitled What is the World?, which precedes these 10 lessons, we are told that the world is false perception. In other words, it is the illusion we have made and maintain to convince ourselves that we are all separate people inhabiting a world of separate and scarce things. But all is not lost. The introduction also tells us, quote, "As sight was made to lead away from truth, it can be redirected. Sounds become the call for God, and all perception can be given a new purpose by the one whom God appointed Savior to the world." End quote. So the 10-lesson section we are now in helps us to understand why we see the world that we do and how we can escape this illusion for the beautiful reality beyond. Today's lesson from my book and my further thoughts follow. A link to the book on Amazon.com is provided below. Lesson number 246, September 3rd. To love my Father is to love his Son. There is no escaping it. We must learn to look beyond the level of bodies and egos to see the one self in others and ourselves. Consider that had you been born in your neighbor's position and lived his life, you might act and think exactly as he does. Bodies and personalities are at the surface. They are part of the illusion. At the level of the self, we are all one. Happily, that is the only level that is eternal, that is real. While we live on earth, there will always be bodies and egos, and they will always be in conflict. Hating, or even just being mildly annoyed by another person, keeps you focused on the level of the physical, the illusion. That is the level of conflict and fear, and it always will be. No amount of work and no amount of time will fix all the injustices and problems of the illusion. It is far easier and more effective to change your perspective. Focus on the one self within your neighbors and yourself. Love the Son of God. That is the only way to love the Father. The title of today's lesson is To Love My Father is to Love His Son. In other words, you can't love the Father without loving the Son. You must love the Son, which is all the children of God, including those you don't like, including your so-called enemies. The first sentence of today's lesson reads, quote, "Let me not think that I can find the way to God if I have hatred in my heart." End quote. So our task here is to forgive, to see past all the so-called sins of our brothers. As the title to today's lesson tells us, to love my Father is to love his Son.